The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, good evening. It's Christine J Hart, and I'm broadcasting live from London. A big hello out there to everyone that's listening. Hopefully it's at least one person tuning in. So brilliant. My show tonight is going to be focusing on a really, really great man. Unfortunately, we haven't got him as a guest, but I'm going to be talking about him. And I'm also going to be trying to emulate him in a way. I came across him a while ago and just was completely blown away by him, really. And, you know, he has his own radio show and he does, I don't think he's got his own radio show actually, but he does his podcasts and in lectures, really, not, you know, podcasts. Actually, it's probably insulting him. He does his lectures and people film them, and he's a truly, truly great man. And I was wondering what to do with my life. I don't really like journalism anymore, and I think really it's the young person's trade, and I really haven't been journalizing for a long time, and I don't really want to sit around trying to write novels, actually, which is what I've always wanted to do. So the last one I've done, I've submitted it. It's teenage fiction, actually, science fiction. So that's gone off. And I was thinking, you know, what do I want to do with my life? And I found this man and I thought, well, I'd really like to be him, you know, even though he's a man. I really would like to be him. Just really, it makes me quite sad that I'm not like him. Never mind. It does make me really sad. Whew, I just had a wave of sadness. Yeah, but I suppose I don't know what he knows. You know, he studied for a long time, and you know, I could sit there and think, well, I'm too old to study and get where he is, but you know, I'm not, and I could start studying, and maybe just by listening to his lectures and learning and studying myself, then perhaps I could become like him. I wouldn't be exactly him, but you know, I think if you want something, you've got to go for it. So I'm going to play a little bit of him because some of you might not have heard him before. I was trying to play him to a friend. He was like, no, I'm not listening. And, you know, it's really hard. And I also, to my horror, posted it on my Facebook page, and absolutely nobody liked it. I mean, I couldn't believe it, really. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. So I am going to play a little bit of him, and I don't know if this is going to come out, but I hope it will. So I hope you can hear a bit of this, and then I'm going to comment on it. Okay, here it is. Hope you can hear this. Oh. I seem I don't know if you guys can actually I don't know if you guys can actually hear what I'm playing. So I'm trying to get my old producer to see if that is actually coming through. So I don't know if you've got any of if you've got any of that. Wow. So, oh my God. Okay, somebody is saying that a friend of mine is saying that they can't hear anything. Oh, what a shame. Oh my God. I hope there was just absolutely, oh my God. I've been playing for the last 20 minutes. I've been playing Paul Washer. Oh, so, oh my God. I can't believe that nobody could hear it. Oh my God, I've been sitting here in tears because it's so absolutely beautiful, and I can't believe that I haven't managed to play it properly over the air. Damn it. Um, God, it's absolutely annoying. Okay, so what I was trying to share was Paul Washer, he has these just amazing lectures. And oh, okay, I'm coming over now. Okay, thank you. Um, so he has these amazing lectures about conscious contact with God, and I think these days most of us don't really know how to reach God, and there's so much discussion about this and that and this and that, and really we are stuck in a dome, and we don't really have access to God, and we really have to seek out God. And I thought, well, how do I do that? And this man is just awesome. And somebody was playing a video, and I can't remember who it was, but they had him speaking at the start, and they didn't put it in their YouTube credits. But then I was playing it back over and over again because I thought it sounded just like an angel speaking, just this awesome voice, like sounded like it was screaming from the heavens. Awesome voice he has, and but then luckily they put it up on the screen, and I searched out this guy, and he is absolutely amazing. Now here he is speaking again, so I'm hoping you can hear. Can you hear that? Okay, so you can't hear that. How annoying. I don't actually even know how to I certainly need the microphone. I don't know how to let you guys hear that. Oh, wow. It's so annoying that I can't play that. So I can't play it. So you guys are gonna have to look it up yourself. It's Paul Washer, Washer. Nobody's gonna bother doing that. So I swear I don't know why I bother really. Okay, so I worked out that I wasn't. Oh, hang on. Okay, so I guess okay. Can you hear me speaking? Sorry, my producer is telling me that he can't hear me either, but I'm pretty sure. Okay, you can hear me, fine, but just can't hear Paul Washer. Oh, great. So I just feel so inadequate in comparison to that man, and I really do. I mean, oh my God, he's just so fantastic. But he studied the Bible for years and years and years, and then he actually, I don't really know much about him. He studied the Bible, I think, and then he became a pastor. And basically, he kind of lectures people about having conscious contact with God. Um, so I decided that that's what I want to do with my life. It's so late in the day, so late in the day. But what choice have I got? Okay, thank you. Notes from my producer there. Um, yeah, I've decided that I want to be Paul Washer. So, how will that work out? You've got to basically, I would have to study the Bible bit by bit. So I worked out the whole deal and what it was all about. And then when I finish, work out some way of preaching to other people so they can hear what is going on, and how to reach God. I think that's how it's done. And I think that takes years and years, doesn't it? I'm not really sure. I mean, perhaps it doesn't. I'm going to have a ring in. Anybody feel free to ring in right now if you like. But I mean, how long does it take to study the Bible and then to sort of start lecturing about how to reach God? Well, I think that is the way forward for me anyway, because I certainly don't want to journalize about what's going on around the world because there's so many better people. And I did have a guest tonight, but she was busy, an expert on Syria who's going to explain what's going on out there. And there's so many better people doing that kind of thing that I don't think there's any point in bothering. My background was tabloid, but I did home in on the IRA and try and write about what's going on out there. I wrote about the UDA, the UVF, and I kind of thought, what's the point? And I'm not sure what I'm not sure. I know damn well I didn't do any good there. And, I've tried to explore evil, and actually I know damn well I've not done any good there. And I was thinking like a rabbit caught in headlights. I'm sure because I've got passion, there must be something that I can do that is something good. And a friend of mine said, you should read from the Bible and share bits. And I thought, well, what? I'll be one of those people that read out bits and everyone goes to sleep, because people tend to go to sleep when you're reading out the Bible because their parents have probably rammed it down their throats. And I thought, who does that really well? And it's got to be Paul Washer, because he's just amazing. So I just played a bit there, but I gather that nobody could hear it. And part of me feels glad that nobody could hear it because he's just so amazing. And I feel a bit weird speaking after him because, I mean, it's just a really hard act to follow, really. He's got this amazing voice. I think he comes from the southern part of America, so he has that voice like that, which is just, oh, my favorite accent. And then he speaks, it's quite high pitched, and he sort of, he's very passionate. So it's kind of like, it's just awesome. It's like just listening to an angel. He's really awesome. He's just beyond awesome. And he's got loads and loads of lectures on YouTube. And as I said, I did share it, but nobody was listening. Nobody liked it on my Facebook page, and nobody paid any attention to Paul Washer. I mean, why is that? Why doesn't, I mean, oh, I can't believe anybody's heard him and just doesn't, immediately think that he's actually an angel in human form. But there we are. So I decided that I want to be him, and I don't know how to go about it really. So if anybody has any ideas about that, any advice they can give me, please ring in. It's a ring in show tonight, so feel free to ring in and talk about that and how we can all help each other to have conscious contact with God. Somebody advised me to read Isaiah, so while I'm waiting for listeners to ring in, then I will just have a look at Isaiah. Now, I haven't really picked up the Bible, not ever, so I suppose having an ambition to be someone that teaches about conscious contact with God, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. But I'd rather start now than just being some arse that just carries on doing what I'm doing, because I think it's not, pretty sure I'm not really helping anybody. I'm pretty sure about that, because if I was, I would have more subscribers, and I just really haven't got hardly any subscribers on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure not many people listen to the show. So something must be wrong. So I'm going to go down this avenue. And do you know what? If nobody listens and I don't get any subscribers, I don't really care, because at least I'll have this information for myself. I'll at least know where to go to find God, and I will be able to pray with confidence and slip away to be with God. Okay, so I'm going to read here. This is Isaiah. I'm not sure who Isaiah was. I thought Isaiah was Moses, and it was a pen name for Moses, but I find out that indeed Isaiah was a prophet who lived around the time of Moses. So just going to go bit by bit and see if I can make sense of it. Okay, so Isaiah. Okay, then it says messages of judgment. Quit your worship charades. The vision that Isaiah, son of Amos, saw regarding Judah and Jerusalem during the time of the kings of Judah, Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. Heaven and earth, you're the jury. Listen to God's case. I had children and raised them well, and they turned on me. I know how that feels because my son's a teenager at the moment and it's all, oh God, you're so boring, Yeah, I understand having children that turn on you. Okay, get that. Okay, the next bit. The ox knows who's boss. The mule knows the hand that feeds him, but not Israel. My people don't know up from down. Yeah, that's kind of what's going on at the moment, really. Shame, misguided, God dropouts, staggering under their guilt baggage. Yeah. Gangs of miscreants and bands of vandals. My people have walked out on me, their God, turned their backs on the Holy of Israel, walked off and never looked back. That's right. I have to say, hand on heart, I don't really bother with God unless, I'm having a bad time or I really want something and I'm like, oh God, please, but it's kind of like you really even resent talking to God because like, oh God, please. And you think, oh, I'm having to speak to God now because I want God. Oh, it's like that. It's like with resentment that you're sort of looking at the sky and speaking. So, yeah. And I think God is sad about this because he's speaking through this guy. I mean, indeed, it is God and not some kind of demon speaking. He's saying that he's really feels quite lonely, that nobody's chatting with him. Everyone's getting on with their own business and nobody is saying really much. I'm going to carry on reading. Why bother even trying to do anything with you when you keep to your bullheaded ways? You keep beating your heads against brick walls. Everything within you protests against you. From the bottom of your feet to the top of your head, nothing's working right. Yeah. Wounds and bruises and running sores. Oh, sorry, I'm just being disturbed right now. Okay. Okay, sorry, where was I? Why bother even trying to do anything with you when you just keep to your bullheaded ways? You keep beating your heads against brick walls. Everything within you protests against you. From the bottom of your feet to the top of your head, nothing's working right. Wounds and bruises and running sores, untended, unwashed, unbandaged. Your country is laid waste. Your city's burned down. That's right. Your land is destroyed by outsiders while you watch. It is actually reduced to rubble by barbarians. Not quite, but I think Syria is actually. And I believe there's been a massive bomb dropped on Afghanistan as we speak. Daughter Zion is deserted, like a tumble-down shack on a dead-end street, like a tar paper slanty on the wrong side of the tracks, like a sinking ship abandoned by the rats. If God of the angel armies hadn't left us a few survivors, we'd be as desolate as Sodom, doomed just like Gomorrah. So I can see from reading that is what is going on right now. Everything is really shit, and nobody is talking to God, and it's pretty much chaos and pretty nasty out there, really. I was only driving home tonight, and I drive quite slow. I drive 30 miles an hour, mostly because I like driving 30 miles an hour. I don't want to speed around. I'm not in a hurry. And, I get people, it's almost like being on a racetrack and they come really fast. You see them like in the wing mirror and they're like miles away. Next thing they're like bang right behind you. And you just feel the anger and you're like, what? And, they can overtake, but they choose not to. And okay, they might be trying to get around the corner and they need to go in my lane. But I reserve the right to drive a car at 30 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour zone. Why shouldn't I? 50 miles an hour actually is the limit. So you're allowed to be at any speed up to 50, obviously. And just the hate and anger, I mean, it's everywhere. It's really bad. So this is what God is pretty angry at this state of affairs. And this is what he's saying through Isaiah, if we're going to believe Isaiah. I don't think we have to, but these are pretty good words. So anyway, let's see if we think Isaiah is a liar or if he is actually channeling God. Listen to my message, you Sodom-schooled leaders. What that means. Receive God's revelation, you Gomorrah-schooled people. Why this frenzy of sacrifices? God's asking. Don't you think I've had my fill of burnt sacrifices, rams and plump grain-fed calves? Don't you think I've had my fill of blood from bulls and lambs and goats? when you come before me, whoever gave you the idea of acting like this? Yeah, exactly. Running here and there, doing this and that, all this sheer commotion in the place provided for worship. Quit your worship charades. I can't stand your trivial religious bullshit. Sorry, religious games. Monthly conferences, weekly, Sabbaths, special meetings. I can't stand one more. Meetings for this, meetings for that. I hate them. You've worn me out. I'm sick of your religion while you go on sinning. Exactly. Lots of people go to church. My parents are like that. They would like go to church every day, drag me up on a Sunday. I went to lay in, drag me up at 10 o'clock to go along to church. And when I came home, like be really nasty to me, be really spiteful. I was a child, for God's sake. And, my mother got stuck in when it comes to slapping me, even with a stick as well, and yet, got to be there at church. So, exactly. So this is not having conscious contact with God. This is what he's saying. He's really upset. Yeah. So carrying on. When you put on your next prayer performance, I'll be looking the other way. So basically, he's going to say, when you pray to me next, I am not going to answer. I'm just going to have my head turned, and I'm not going to answer you. No matter how long or loud or often you pray, I won't be listening. And do you know why? Because you've been tearing people to pieces and your hands are bloody. So that is a lesson to us all. We're always bitching, fighting. God, I'm one for that. I can get really, really angry if someone says something off to me. And really, does it matter? I mean, does it matter in the scheme of things when children are being gassed and Afghanistan is being bombed? No, it doesn't. But yeah, here we are. Your hands are bloody. Go home and wash up. Clean up your act. Sweep your lives clean of your evil doings so I don't have to look at them any longer. Say no to wrong. Learn to do good. Work for justice. Help the down and out. Stand up for the homeless. Go to bat for the defenseless. Come sit down. Let's argue this out. This is God's message. If your sins are blood red, they will be snow white. If they're red like crimson, they'll be like wool. If you willingly obey, you'll feast like kings. But if you're willful and stubborn, you'll die like dogs. That's right, God said so. Oh, can you believe it? The chaste city has become a whore. She was once all justice, everything living as good neighbours, and now they're all at one another's throats. Your coins are all counterfeits. Your wine is watered down. Your leaders are turncoats who keep company with crooks. They sell themselves to the highest bidder and grab anything not nailed down. They never stand up for the homeless, never stick up for the defenseless. I have to say, I have never fought someone's battle, have I? No, I haven't. I remember when I worked for the News of the World and even for the Sun, and if somebody came to me with a story where someone needed help, I was like, there's no celebrity in it though, really, is there? I knew the money wasn't there, and I was arrogant, cocky, had a sports car, an expensive flat, and did I want to be bothered with some little story that probably wouldn't get in, but I could have taken the time to try. Okay. Oops. It's quite hard. That's what I hate about Bibles. They're so squishy with the tiny writing. Just puts everyone off reading the damn thing. Okay. The decree, therefore, of the Master God of the angel armies. He sounds pretty cool, right? The strong one of Israel. This is it. I'll get my oppressors off my back. I'll get back at my enemies. I'll give you the back of my hand. Purge the junk from your life. Clean you up. I'll set honest judges and wise counselors among you, just like it was back in the beginning. Then you'll be renamed. City that treats people right. The true blue city. God's right ways will put Zion right again. God's right actions will restore her penitence. But it's certain for rebels and God traitors, a dead end for those who walk out on God. Your dalliances in those Oak Grove shrines will leave you looking mighty foolish. All that fooling around in gods and goddess gardens that you thought was the latest thing. You'll end up like an oak tree with all its leaves falling off, like an unwanted garden withered and brown. The big man will turn out to be dead bark and twigs and his work, the spark that starts the fire, that exposes man and works both as nothing but cinders and smoke. The message Isaiah got was guiding Judah and Jerusalem was, there's a day coming where the mountains of God's home will be the mountain. Solid, towering over all mountains. All nations will river towards it. People from all over set out for it. They say, come, let's climb God's mountain. Go to the house of the God of Jacob. He'll show us the way he works. Now we can live the way we're made. Zion's the source of the revelation. God's message comes from Jerusalem. He'll set things fairly between nations. He'll make things right between many peoples. They'll turn their swords into shovels, their spears into hoes. No more nation fight nation. They won't play war anymore. Create families of Jacob. Let's live in the light of God. God, you've walked out on your family, Jacob, because their world is full of hokey-pokey religion. Philistine witchcraft and pagan hocus pocus, a world rolling in well filled with nothing, no end to its machines and gadgets. That sounds just like right now, right? And I was trying to study things, and I have to say, at the end of the day, you can just feel like someone chasing its tail, you know? Oh, I want to find out what this is. Oh, I want to find out what that is. And oh, I think there's a piece of me missing, and I have to find out all about what dirty doers do to find this piece of me that's missing. Well, I don't. I just have to pray to God and say, if I've got part of me that's been, spliced off or been in some kind of project or some kind of evil program, I just really don't have to go to the people that have created these programs. I have to go to God and ask for the antidote from God, or it's ridiculous. And sadly, I've been chasing my tail for decades, or I could be like Paul Washer and just really be doing good work and telling people how to have conscious contact with God rather than just involved with one's own chasing one's tail round and round and round. And then suddenly you realize that you're laying on your deathbed and haven't actually achieved anything or got any answers whatsoever. And gods of all sorts and sizes turn these people, make their own gods and worship what they make. A degenerate race, face down in the gutter. Don't bother with them, they're not worth forgiving. Head for the hills, hide in the caves, from the terror of God, from his dazzling presence. People with a big head are headed for a fall. Pretentious egos brought down a peg. God alone at front and center on the day we're talking about. The day that God of the angel armies is matched against all big-talking rivals, against all swaggering big names, against all giant serpents, hugely towering, and against the expansive chestnut, against Kilimanjaro and Annapurna, against the ranges of Alps and Andes, against every soaring skyscraper, against all proud obelisks and statues, against ocean-going luxury liners, against elegant three-masted schooners. The swell big heads will be punctured bladders, the pretentious egos brought down to earth, leaving God alone at front and center on the day we're talking about. All those sticks and stones dressed up to look like gods will be going for good. Clamber into caves in the cliffs. Duck into any hole you can find. Hide from the terror of God, from his dazzling presence, when he assumes his full stature on earth, towering and terrifying. On that day, men and women will take their sticks and stones they've decked out in gold and silver to look like gods, and then worshipped, and they will dump them in any ditch or gully. They will run for rock caves and cliff hideouts to hide from the terror of God, from his dazzling presence, when he assumes his full stature on earth, towering and terrifying. Quit scraping and fawning over mere humans, so full of themselves, so full of hot air. Well, this is what we're doing at the moment. We put up people and we ask them things, and actually, they don't know anything, and they don't know anything because they're human. And, they scramble around and read the stuff of other humans. And, we come up with basically a real mishmash of confusion. And then people get really angry because really there's not many answers. It's just a lot of confusion. And this is because we're asking humans this, humans that, and these humans are really duped. They don't know anything. Even when you think of people like John Dee trying to fool around on on different layers of consciousness. What did he know? He didn't know anything. Why? Because on these different layers, there's nothing but demons. That's where they live, and it's very easy for them to trick humans. So basically, we have to get this hotline to God, or we're going to end up pretty screwed up. And this is the main answer, and it's definitely the conclusion that I have come to. So I hope young ones listening can take heed, so they don't have to waste their time like I wasted my time. Okay, carrying on. Can't you see there is nothing to them? Yes, indeed I can. And there's nothing to me either. And I don't want to be like this. I want to be full of God. The master God of the angel armies is emptying Jerusalem and Judah of the basic necessities, plain bread and water to begin with. He's withdrawing police and protection, judges and courts, pastors and teachers, captains and generals, doctors and nurses, and yes, even the repairment and jacks of all trades. He says, I'll put the little kids in charge of the city. Schoolboys and schoolgirls will order everyone around. People will beat each other's throats, stabbing one another in the back. Neighbor against neighbor, young. Hang on, is he saying he's going to do this bit? Hang on, sounds a bit off. He says I'll put little kids in charge of the city. Schoolboys and schoolgirls will order everyone around. Really? People will be at each other's throats, stabbing one another in the back. That's not very nice. I've never read this before. So, neighbor against neighbor, young against old, the no account against the well respected. One brother will grab another and say, you look like you've got a head on your shoulders. Do something. Get us out of this mess. And he'll say, me, not me. I don't have a clue. Don't put me in charge of anything. Oh, okay. He's prophesizing of a bad time, presumably. I hope so. Anyway, Jerusalem's on its last legs. Judah is soon down for the count. Everything people say and do is at cross purposes with God, a slap in my face, brazen in their depravity. They flaunt their sins like degenerate Sodom, doomed to their eternal souls. They've made their bed, now they'll sleep in it. Reassure the righteous that their good living will pay off. But doomed to the wicked, disaster. Everything they did will be done to them. Skinny kids terrorize my people. Silly girls bully them around. My dear people, your leaders are taking you down a blind alley. They're sending you off on a wild goose chase. God enters the courtroom. He takes his place at the bench to judge his people. God calls for order in the court. Hauls the leaders of the people into the dock. You've played havoc with this country. Your houses are stuffed with what you've stolen from the poor. What is this anyway? Stomping on my people, grinding the faces of the poor into the dirt. Actually, we can all think of people that do this and they call it good business, but really it's not. It's just ripping off. I went to a market today, an Asian market, and it's just everything I bought was like really reasonable. Some earrings, and they're just beautiful ruby earrings. They weren't real ruby, obviously, but I was wearing them and they were so beautiful, and they were just £5 from this Asian guy in this market, and I thought, well, if you went to the different areas, they'd be like, oh, 50 quid, I actually went for someone to mend my computer, and he mended my computer, and he was like, no, it's no charge. And, it's the first time I went in there, and it's just, I thought, well, if I went again to a middle class, area, it would be different. I wouldn't have got, somebody wouldn't have, even my mechanic, I've been going there for years. I do like him, but I can go in there and he can help me and then say, oh, no, it's okay. Just call it 50, and it's like, well, didn't do much, but this guy, we spent 2 hours in there and I said, how much do I owe you? And he said nothing, but that's so rare today. And there is a lot of, there's a lot of ripping off and they call it good business. And yeah, so this is what he's saying here. What is this anyway? Okay, stomping on my people, grinding the faces of the poor into the dirt. That's what the master God of the angel army says. God says Zion women are stuck up, prancing around in their high heels, making eyes at all the men in the street, swinging their hips, tossing their hair, gaudy and garish and cheap jewellery. I had cheap jewellery on, but it did look nice. The master will fix it so those Zion women will all turn bald. It's not very nice. Are you sure, Isaiah? Are you really sure that's what he said? The master will do it. I think this is a bit tampered with. I think Isaiah might have added his own little twist to this, but never mind. Okay. The time is coming when the master will strip them all of their fancy baubles, the dangling earrings, ankles and bracelets, combs and mirrors and silk scarves, diamond brooches and pearl necklaces, the rings on their fingers and the rings on their toes, the latest fashion in hats, exotic perfumes and aphrodisiacs, gowns and capes, and all the world's finest in fabrics and designs. Instead of wearing seductive scents, these women are going to smell like rotten cabbages. That's not too great. Instead of modelling flowing gowns, they'll be sporting rags. There's nothing wrong with that, wearing rags. Instead of their stylish hairdos, scruffy heads. I wear rags and have scruffy heads, so there's nothing wrong with that. It's quite cool. Your finest fighting men will be killed, your soldiers left dead on the battlefield. The entrance gate to... He's going on a bit, isn't he? I don't know how much of this I can read. Your finest fighting... Is this really the same God that Paul Washer is talking about? I'm hoping, but he seems a bit naughty, a bit of a naughty God. How much more of this going on can I read? When's the punchline? That will be the day when 7 women will gang up on one man saying, we'll take care of ourselves. Get your own food and clothes. Just give us a child, make us pregnant, so we'll have something to live for. Actually, it does give you something to live for, having a child. I found that I always had something to live for. I had something to live for. I thought I was going to find out great truths about the world and great truths about this. Mostly, I would thought, because I knew so much about evil, because my mother was so evil. I thought, yeah, I've known evil all through my childhood. I'm going to really expose it on planet Earth. And I just had this thing that I was going to do this big, great thing. And I was going to write this big, great book where I was going to, oh, is that what evil's all about? Oh, thank you, great person. So I had that strongly, and I thought I was going to do it with added artistry as well, so people be blown away by my dexterity with words. It's bizarre. You got people like Julie Burchill, who discuss social commentary, but I just thought I was going to do that. It's massive delusion, clearly. Never mind. It's nice when we come out of our delusions and get some sanity, because I think a lot of people do have delusions, and then when you get sanity around it, you can see others' delusions and point out some sanity to them, and then thus be helpful in the world. Anyway, he is spanging on a bit here, isn't it? I hope I've got a break coming up soon. Have a cup of tea. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, we got to the bit where God, presumably according to Isaiah, who is a human, make us pregnant and we'll have something to live for. Yeah, children then do give you something to live for, but you must remember they do then get older and get stroppy with you. So it's like you get this pointing out all your faults, actually. So then you think, oh shit, I should then go back to what you were doing before you had them, but then that's normally eroded and you normally see how pathetic that was. So it's quite hard, but it's best to do that hard work. And that's when God's branch will sprout green and lush. The produce of the country will give Israel survivors something to be proud of again, and then they'll hold their heads high. Everyone left behind in Zion, all the discards and rejects in Jerusalem, will be reclassified as holy, alive, and therefore precious. God will give Zion's women a good bath. He'll scrub the blood-stained city of its violence and brutality. That will be cool. Purge the place with a firestorm of judgment. Well, that'll be cool. I mean, it would be cool to be judged by God rather than just judged by humans and women. People judge really hard, like, oh, it's horrible. And then you think, oh, actually, you're judging from your own viewpoint, and it's kind of looking through a dark lens, and we can't know other people's lives to sort of stand there and say, oh, this about someone, that about someone. It's well out of order. It would be beautiful to be judged by God, but then we've probably got lots of hidden bits of sin that we don't really know about. I found out last week that I got the sin of pride and can be jerked around quite a lot by pride, actually, and do things that I really don't want to do just because someone's got me on a pride hook. So, yeah, and pride is sin. So, yeah, wouldn't it be cleansing to be judged by God? He could just go in all your dark little cubby holes and, pull out what's going on, pull out the little mice hiding in the corners. Then God will bring back the ancient pillow of cloud by day and the pillar of the fire by night, and mark Mount Zion and everyone in it with his glorious presence, his immense protective presence, shade from the burning sun and shelter from the driving rain. That sounds cool, doesn't it? I can't see this. Why is the Bible so damn small? It's like, what? They want people to read it, and it's like, oh, we can write really tiny, so you can't read it, so you can't be bothered to read it. I'm struggling here. Okay, I've got glasses on, and yet I still can't see it. What the hell? But, I can read a normal book. I can read Big Little Lies, for instance. I can read a trashy magazine. I can read all sorts of crap, but I can't read what you're supposed to read because it's so titchy. The light isn't great, but I'll read on. I'll sing a ballad to the one I love, a love ballad about his vineyard. The one I love had a vineyard, a fine, well-placed vineyard. He hoed the soil and pulled the weeds and planted the very best vines. He built a lookout, built a wine press, a vineyard to be proud of. He looked for a vintage yield of grapes, but for all his pains he got junky grapes. Now listen to what I'm telling you. You who live in Israel and Judah, what do you think that's going on between me and this vineyard? Can you not think of anything I could have done to my vineyard that I didn't do? When I expected good grapes, I got bitter grapes. Well, now, let me tell you what I'll do to my vineyard. I'll tear down its fence and let it go to ruin. I'll knock down the gate and let it be trampled. I'll turn it into a patch of weeds, untended and uncared for. Thistles and thorns will take it over. I'll give orders to the clouds. Don't train on that vineyard ever. See, God can be quite a spiteful one, can't he? He can say, no, I'm not having any rain on your grapes if you don't talk to him each day. Do you get it? The vineyard of God, of the angel armies, is the country of Israel. All the men and women of Judah are the garden he was so proud of. Oh, I'm getting, okay, we're his garden. He looked for a crop of justice and saw them murdering each other. He looked for a harvest of righteousness and heard only the moans of victims. It can't have been good. So we're his little grapes. I think this is what it means. Paul Washer would probably disagree and sort of sum it up in a wonderful way that sounded like an angel on a cloud. But this is me, so I'm putting it my way. I think what he's trying to say is we're his grapes. We're his grapes. And he was looking to see us all shiny and wonderful. He looks down and we're all killing each other. It's not funny, it's horrible. If you think about ISIS making men line up in a row and sort of... Oh, sorry, I'm on a break. I'll be back later. Please stay with me. Thank you.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Okay, I'm back from the break. Wow, that break was I just dashed up the stairs. I'm upstairs in my study and I had to dash downstairs and stuff down a peanut butter sandwich, and I haven't had enough time to get back upstairs. Oh. Okay, right, let's carry on reading. Where were we? Hang on. Okay. Okay, now we got to the break, and actually I had Miles Johnson not texting me saying, should I come on your show? No, we're doing a God thing. And talking of gossip around the alternative world, did anybody see Fritz Springmeier advertising for a lady friend on his Facebook page? And he had a little paragraph and he said what he wanted in a woman. He didn't want to be too tall. And then he said, if you want to be one of a pool of women I'm going to pick from, just email me. It was so funny. A pool of women. It was just a pool of women. I was kind of like seeing it in my mind's eye and sort of seeing him walking around it. I'll have that one. Not that one. Not that one. Maybe that one. And then he added a note about how he would decide. So arrogant, but never mind. He's a great guest. I'm sure if he had me talking now about him behind his back, he would laugh. Okay, going on. So God basically, through Isaiah, we're going to believe him, is saying that he planted us and, created us. And basically it's like having grapes and watching them grow and looking down, and he saw us all fighting with each other and just ignoring him and just being horrible. And you can imagine his position if you make some figures out of clay and breathe life into them, and just they all don't even look round at you to see you, and just kind of get on with their own stuff, and it's all petty stuff, but to them it's really important, and they're all pumped full of pride and ignoring and anger and murderousness, and really bad stuff is going down, and you'd think, what? So he's pretty angry at this moment in time. So we have to understand that he's probably pretty justified, and I know you might be reading it and thinking, well, I'm not like that, but the majority of people are like that. And if you're not like that, then are you doing service? Are you out in the world doing service to others? Are you helping? There's a lot of pain going on, a lot of madness. What are you doing to help? Because you've got to do something to help, give of yourself in some way. So, and also talk to God. You can't just ignore him every day, because he's your creator. And if you do please God and talk to God every day, then he will guide you in your life along a better path. It won't be, I can testify to having a life that's pretty, I did a lot of tail chasing, and obviously people can't see from the outside, and they will say, well, you've done this and that and the other, but they can't see just how much activity has gone on, how much activity has gone on in my life, I should be in a better position financially, and certainly should have achieved more because a lot of activity has gone on. I probably didn't even bother socializing at all through certain times in my life, and just, pushing myself forward, like, push forward, because I thought I was going to do this and that, and, this main ambition I had, but really it hasn't worked out. And, it hasn't worked out because I was on the wrong pathway of looking to darkness to give me answers, but then I suppose if you're bitten and destroyed by evil, like I felt I was, I thought that I could go to it and get answers from it and then feel whole again. And I suppose, yeah, it's pretty mad, really. Yeah, it's not, that's not saying that won't ever happen. I suppose you think it's almost like if, a sort of tiger bites a lump of flesh off you and then runs off, and you try and hunt down tigers to find which tiger has got that part of you inside their belly, and I want it back, kind of thing. I think that was it with me, really. I sort of wanted it back. I felt like my sexuality had gone. I don't really have a sexuality at all. It was taken when I was abused by my father, and of course the other sexual abuse by the Catholic Church. And so that was taken, really. And then my brother stamped on that, and my mother stamped on it too. And, it's pretty much, I just sort of got up and walked away. And I can remember actually when my father took me to Dublin, and he sexually abused me when I was there with him on my own, sleeping in the same bed as him. And I remember waking up morning after, and not all of me woke up, if you know what I mean. It was a weird feeling. It was like I'd had an operation, someone had taken a part out of me, and I did feel different. And, I suppose the nurses and doctors might say, do you feel different? And you think, well, I feel like a part of me is gone. I know a part of me is gone. Well, that's how I felt. And that was my flowering sexuality. That was that feminine part of me. So I live without that feminine part, really. And, even though I've had boyfriends, we always end up like bestie mates. And no, I'm not gay. I just don't have a sexuality. I just don't have it. And I just use it as a tool. I used it in my journalism to get close to people that I wanted to get information from. It just didn't seem as if it was part of me. It just seemed like a tool, just like a monkey wrench or something. I'm not connected to that part of me, and it's just a tool that I use. Like, oh, there's a man, and I want to find out what's going in their head. So there, you want this, don't you, little bitch? There you are. Put it down here, kitty, kitty, and then get what I want from them, get the information, and yeah. So I didn't have my sexuality, so I thought that because darkness had taken it, my mother had taken it, my father had taken it, and I thought, I suppose if I chase that world of darkness, one of them will maybe say, oh, it's there. Anyway. Sorry, it doesn't matter. Sorry. Anyway, I don't suppose anybody's listening anyway. It doesn't matter because I'm pretty old now anyway. So who needs to have that part of you? It's not really that important. Not really. There are other things. Anyway, so yeah, so God, it's best to focus on God and get a conscious connection with God so you can do some good in the world, so you can help others. So I'm going to read on, okay? Doomed to you who buy up all the houses. Oh, God. There's so many people that just buy up loads of houses. There's such a housing shortage in the UK. I don't know what it's like in America or other countries that may be listening, but it's really awful here. The rents are really, really high. It's really hard to just live. It's really scary. I know I'm in fear constantly about getting the rent money and, finding a way to bring in money, and it's because the rents are just so high, and because people have bought up houses. Why do people need to own all these different houses unless they're gonna give a fair rent? But normally it's just to make a profit, and it's not right. I know people say it's good, but it's not. If everybody stopped doing it, then there'd be more places for people to live. Here we go. And they grab all the land for themselves. Evicting the old owners, posting no trespassing signs, taking over the country, leaving everyone homeless and landless. It's amazing, isn't it? That the same thing that's going on in the modern day happened all these like thousands of years ago. Isn't it weird that humanity's like so faulty that it does this over and over and over? Oh. I overheard God of the angel armies say, those mighty houses will end up empty. Those extravagant estates will be deserted. A 10-acre vineyard will produce a pint of wine. A 50-pound sack of seed, a quart of grain, doomed to those who get up early and start drinking booze before breakfast. Who does that, though? Who stay up all hours of the night, drinking themselves into a stupor. They make sure their banquets are well furnished with harps and flutes and plenty of wine, but they'll have nothing to do with the work of God. Pay no mind to what he is doing. Therefore, my people will end up in exile because they don't know the score. Their big men will starve to death, and the common people die of thirst. Sheol developed a huge appetite, swallowing people non-stop. Big people and little people alike, down that gullet, to say nothing of all the drunks, the down and outs, on a par with the high and mighty, windbag boasters, crumpled, flaccid as a punctured bladder, but by working justice. God of the angel armies will be a mountain by working righteousness. Holy God will show what holy is, and lambs will graze as if they owned the place. Oh. Kids and calves right at home in the ruins. Doomed to you who use lies to sell evil, who haul sin to market by the truckload, who say what God's waiting for. Let him get a move on so we can see it. Whatever the Holy of Israel has cooked up, we'd like to check it out. Doomed to you who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness in place of light and light in place of darkness, who substitute bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Doomed to you who think you're so smart, who hold such a high opinion of yourselves. All you're good at is drinking champion boozers who collect trophies from drinking bouts and then line your pockets with bribes from the guilty while you violate the rights of the innocent. But they won't get by with it. As fire eats stubble and dry grass goes up in smoke, their souls will atrophy, their achievements crumble into dust because they say no to the revelation of God of the angel armies, who were to have nothing to do with the Holy of Israel. Excuse me. I thought this was a short chapter actually, but it goes on. But I said I would read it, so golly, it'd be great if I could turn the page. Okay. So going on. That's why God. I can't read it. That's why God flamed out in anger against his people, reached out and knocked them down. The mountains trembled at their dead bodies piled up in the streets. But even after that, he was still angry, his fist still raised, ready to hit them again. He raised a flag, signaling a distant nation, whistles for people at the end of the earth, and here they come on the run. Now none drag their feet. No one stumbles, no one sleeps or dawdles. Shirts are on and pants buckled. Every boot is spit polished and tied. Their arrows are sharp, bows strung. The hooves of their horses shod, chariot wheels geared, roaring like a pride of lions at the full-throated roars of young lions. They growl and seize their prey, dragging it off. No rescue for that one. They'll roar and roar and roar on that day, like the roar of ocean billows. Look as long and hard as you like at that land. You'll see nothing but darkness and trouble. Every light in the sky will be blacked out by the clouds. In the year that King Uzzah died, I saw the Master sitting on a throne, high, exalted, and the train of his robes filled the temple. Angel seraph hovered about him, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 wings they covered their feet, and with 2 wings they flew, and they called back and forth to one another. Holy, holy, holy is God of the angel armies. His bright glory fills the whole earth. The foundations trembled at the sound of the angel voices, and then the whole house was filled with smoke. I said, doom, it's doomsday. I'm as good as dead. Every word, who's this speaking? Every word I've ever spoken is tainted, blasphemous even, and the people I live with talk the same way, using words that corrupt and desecrate. And here I've looked God in the face, the King, God of the angel armies. This must be Isaiah speaking, presumably. Then one of the angel seraphs flew to me. He held a light. God, if somebody said this these days, it'd be called a complete nut. But okay, he's getting away with it in the old times. Cool. Then one of the angel seraphs flew to me. He held. Oh yeah, sure he did. So I had to insert that. He held a live coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar. He touched my mouth with the coal and said, what did he say? Gone your guilt, your sins wiped out. And then I heard the voice of the Master. Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? I spoke up. I'll go. Send me. He said, go and tell the people. Listen hard, but you aren't going to get it. Look hard, but you won't catch on. Make these people blockheads with fingers in their ears and blindfolds on their eyes so they won't see a thing, won't hear a sound, so they won't have a clue about what's going on. And yes, so they won't turn around and be made whole. Astonished, I said, and Master, how long is this going to go on? He said, until the cities are emptied out. Not a soul left in the cities. Houses empty of people, countryside empty of people. Until I, God, get rid of everyone, sending them off. The land totally empty. Wouldn't that be awesome if we did that today? It would kind of be awesome. Where are we? And even if some should survive, say a tenth, the devastation will start up again. He means business here. The country will look like the pine and oak forest, with every tree cut down, every tree a stump, a huge field of stumps, but there's a holy seed in those stumps. It's quite poetic. So this guy is hearing all this from God, and you'll notice it's very poetic. So we're thinking probably it's not a bad person, because he's a bad entity he's speaking to, because he's very upset with what's going on, and he's also very poetic. So it must be a good God. Is it the real God? Perhaps. Everyone seems to believe that for thousands and thousands of years. During the time that Ahaz, son of Jonathan, son of Uzta, was king of Judah, King Rezin, oh God, can't read that. Okay. Then God told Isaiah, go and meet Ahaz, take your son. Oh, it's got all these annoying names. Tell him, listen, calm down, don't be afraid, and don't panic over these 2 burnt out cases, Rezin of Aram and the son of Remelah. They talk big, but there's nothing to them. Along with more names. They've conspired against you, saying, let's go to war against Judah. Dissemble it, take it for ourselves, and set the son of Tabret up as a puppet king over it. It's a lot of what's going on right now, I suppose, especially out in Syria. I think where all this, presumably it's where Isaiah was living at the time, that area anyway. It won't happen. Nothing will come of it, because the capital city of Aram is Damascus, and the king of Damascus is a mere man. Rezin. As for Ephraim, in 65 years he will be rubble, nothing left of it. The capital of Ephraim is Samaria, and the king of Samaria is the mere son of Remelah. If you don't take your stand in faith, you won't have a leg to stand on. God spoke again to Ahaz. This time he said, just for a sign from your God, ask anything. Be extravagant. Ask for the moon. But Ahaz says, I'll never do that. I'll never make demands like that on God. Oh, good for you, Ahaz. So Isaiah told him, then listen to this, government of David. It's bad enough that you make people tired with your pious, timid hypocrisies, but now you're making God tired. So the master is going to give you a sign anyway. Watch for this. A girl who is presently a virgin will get pregnant. She'll bear a son and name him Emmanuel. By the time the child is 12 years old, able to make moral decisions, the threat of war will be over. Relax, those two kings that have you are worried will be out of the picture, but also be warned, God will bring on you and your people and your government a judgment worse than anything. Once the time, the kingdom's spirit, when Ephraim left Judah, the king of Assyria is coming. Then when God will whistle for the flies, what? Then when God will whistle for the flies at the headwaters of Egypt's Nile and whistle for the bees in the land of Assyria, they'll come and infest every nook and cranny of the country. There'll be no getting away from them. And that's when the master will take the razor rented from. That's interesting, because I was talking to a friend of mine about God, and they said that I had crafted God the way I wanted him to be crafted. And I rather my vision of God, I suppose, is of like really sweet, kind, super pure love. But I suppose God has proven to us in quite a few cases that it can be a bit brutal, especially if you think about in people's lives. You know, they have like super, super bad things happen to them that are quite brutal. And out of that brutal stuff, like perhaps going blind or ending up crippled, you know, kind of thing where it really slam dunks a person, and then they have to kind of get over that. And you know, I was reading, I think, what was I reading about a woman that had been through something really, really awful, and I thought if I had gone through that, I wouldn't be able to stand up again. And she had gone through it, and I thought, oh, whoa. And what was it? Oh, something really horrible. And she had gone through this. And I just thought, you know, she's become like a kind of almost a beacon, because I was feeling anxious over this, that, and the other, about money, about, you know, loads of different little things. And I was driving along feeling anxious. And I was listening to a story on the radio. And then I thought, why, you know, what right have I got to be anxious over, you know, driving, over money, when she had gone through this massive thing and yet still was not giving into the sin of fear, which is a sin of fear. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I suffer from anxiety, it's okay. Well, but it's a sin of, really, because it's lack of faith. You're supposed to have faith. You're supposed to talk to God, because God is actually not really how we envisage him, as some sort of, you know, like sappy, weak kind of love. And, you know, love sometimes can seem as though it's kind of weak, because, you know, it is something nice, and Hovid seems that much stronger because we have this vision of God as love and like therefore weak, and then we see bad as stronger, and you know, we harden our hearts that much more, because you think, like, I've got to harden my heart to live in this shithole, you know, which has a lot of hate going down in it. And but you haven't got to harden your heart. You just really have to see that God isn't how we envisage him. God is really can be quite nasty. He can do all these things that it says. You know, it says here he's just gathered the flies, and you know, and normally we just think of the demons we've read about, like the Lord of the Fly. Is it Beelzebub or whatever? Piece of shit demon can sort of summon the flies. Well, if a piece of shit demon can summon the flies, what more can God do, for God's sake? So, you know, God is really, like we're reading here, he's not sitting somewhere covered in flowers while we're suffering. You know, God is full of vengeance and does do this, that, and the other in our lives to kind of teach us certain lessons in certain lifetimes. And some people, they do go through horror and they come out stronger. And that's because their soul is learning something, and they shine brightly after because their soul has grown bigger. You know, we might think, oh, God, their life is now like terrible, but their soul is bigger. So it doesn't matter what they've got on the outside. If their soul is bigger, then they're happier. So that is what happens to these people. So here we have in Isaiah, which is 7 to 8, verse. Oh, it's so tiny, I can't see it. I do think some people do that deliberately so we don't read the damn thing. I think it's 18 to 90. So it's Isaiah 7, 8, 18 to 19. So basically, God is... it's a very... Oh, I went... Sorry, I've silenced myself by accident, and I don't know how long... Well, I've got really bad feedback. Okay, I'm going to get the studio again. Okay, I'm back again, and I've been talking for quite a while. So I noticed that the sound was off. So I really do hope that I really do hope that the sound has been on for the last bit of the show, but I haven't got anybody around to tell me that the sound was on. But I hope I did unmute when I came back upstairs. I'm pretty sure I did, but perhaps I didn't. Gosh, that would be awful. I just wasted people's time. Okay. Where do we get to? So he was talking about worrying and how it's you're not to worry, okay? You're only to worry about God. So if you're lying awake at night worrying about money, worrying about debt, no. What you do is you worry about God. Is God okay? How is God feeling? How is God feeling right now? Is God all right? Have you pleased God today? That kind of thing. You don't think about yourself because you're small. You don't really count. What counts is God. So he's made you, you know, so you don't think about money, because then if you worry about God, he can hear this, it will register with him, and you just automatically get taken care of, taken care of. So worrying is sinful. You don't need to do it. You have a father. Okay, so moving on. Don't get tangled up in that barbed wire. Get free of it. Gather up the testimony, preserve the teaching for my followers, while I wait for God, as long as he remains in hiding. While I wait and hope for him, I stand my ground and hope. I and the children God gave me as signs to Israel, warning signs and hope signs from God of the angel armies, who makes his home in Mount Zion. When people tell you, try out the fortune tellers, consult their spiritualists. Why not tap into the spiritual world? Get in touch with the dead. Tell them, no, we're going to study the scriptures. Well, I agree with that, because you look at Miles Johnson and what he's doing. I mean, really, it's made him so unhappy, and now he has to, even though I was part of it myself, you know, he's struggling. He goes to do a job every day. He's in tears. Oh, it's really bad. I can't earn money. And because he's basically hasn't studied the scriptures, he sought answers from the spirit world, which hasn't given me any either. So study the scriptures. People who try the other ways get nowhere, a dead end. It is a dead end, frustrated and finished. Exactly. They try one thing after another. Yes, when nothing works, they get angry, cursing this God and then that one, looking this way and then that, up and down and sideways, and seeing nothing, a blank wall, an empty hole. They end up in the dark with completely nothing, Miles Johnson. But there'll be no darkness for those who are in trouble. Either he did bring the lands of Zebulun and Nephtah into disrepute, but time was coming when he'll make the whole area glorious. The road along the sea, the country past the Jordan, international Galilee. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. For those who lived in a land of deep shadows, excuse me, light sunbursts of light. You repopulated the nation. You expanded its joy. Oh, they're so glad in your presence. Festival joy, the joy of a great celebration, sharing rich gifts and greetings. The abuse of oppressors and cruelty of tyrants, all their whips and cudgels and curses, is gone, done away with. A deliverance, as surprising and sudden as Gideon's old victory over Midian. The boots of all those invading troops, along with their shirts soaked with innocent blood, will be piled in a heap and burned, a fire that will burn for days. For a child has been born for us, the gift of a son for us. He'll take over the running of the world. His name will be Amazing Counselor, Strong God, Eternal Father, Prince of Wholeness. His ruling authority will grow, and there'll be no limits to the wholeness he will bring. He'll rule from the historic David throne over that promised kingdom. He'll put that kingdom on a firm footing and keep it going with fair dealing and right living, beginning now and lasting always. The zeal of God, the angel armies, will do all of this. The Master sent a message against Jacob. It landed right on Israel's doorstep. All the people soon heard the message. Ephraim and the cities of Samaria, but they were a proud and arrogant bunch. They dismissed the message, saying, "Things aren't that bad. We can handle anything that comes. If our buildings are knocked down, we'll rebuild them bigger and finer. If our forests are cut down, we'll replant them with finer trees." So God incited their adversaries against them, stirred up their enemies to attack from the east, Armenians from the west, Philistines that made a hash of Israel. But even after that, he was still angry, his fist still raised, ready to hit them again. But the people paid no mind to who hit them, didn't seek God of the angel army. So God hacked off Israel's head and tail, palm branch and reed, both on the same day. The big-headed elders with a head, the lying prophets with a tail. Those who were supposed to lead this people led them down blind alleys. For those who followed the leaders ended up lost and confused. That's why the Master lost interest in the young men, had no feeling for their orphans and widows. All of them were godless and evil, talking filth and folly. But even after that, he was still angry, his fist still raised, ready to hit them again. Their wicked lives raged like out-of-control fire, the kind that burns everything in its path. Trees and bushes, words and praises filled the skies with smoke. God of the angel armies covered his face with fire, and the whole country was set on fire. He turned the people into consuming fires, consuming one another in their lusts, appetites, insatiable, stuffing and gorging themselves left, right with people and things. But still they starved. Not even their children were safe from their rapacious hunger. I can't say that. I can't say that either. And then the two ganged up against Judah, and after that he was still angry, his fist still raised, ready to hit them again. Doom to you who will legislate evil and will make laws that make victims, laws that make misery for the poor, that rob destitute people of dignity, exploiting defenseless widows, taking advantage of homeless children. What will you have to say on Judgment Day? When doomsday arrives out of the blue, who will you get to help you? What good will your money do you? A sorry sight you'll be then, huddled with the prisoners, or just some corpses stacked in the street. From after all this, God is still angry, his fist still raised, ready to hit it down again. Doom to Assyria, weapon of my anger. My wrath is a cudgel in his hands. I send him against a godless nation, against the people I'm angry with. I commanded to strip them clean, rob them blind, and then push their faces in the mud and leave them. But Assyria has another agenda. He has something else in mind. He's out to destroy utterly, to stamp out as many nations as he can. Syria says, aren't my commanders all kings? Can't they do whatever they like? Didn't I destroy Kalno as well as Katamash? Hamath as... I can't say all that. I've eliminated kingdoms full of gods, for more impressive than anything in Jerusalem and Samaria. So what's to keep me from destroying Jerusalem in the same way I destroyed Samaria and all her god idols? When the Master has finished dealing with Jerusalem, he'll say, now it's Assyria's turn. I'll punish the bragging arrogance of the king of Assyria, his high and mighty posturing. I've done all this by myself. I know more than anyone. I've wiped out the boundaries of whole countries. I've walked in and taken anything I wanted. I charged in like a bull and toppled their kings from their thrones. I reached out my hand and took all that they treasured, so easily as a boy taking a bird's egg from a nest. Like a farmer gathering eggs from the hen house, I gathered the world in my basket, and no one so much as fluttered a wing or squawked or even chirped. Does an axe take over from the one who swings it? Does a saw act more important than the sawyer, as if a shovel did its shoveling by using a ditch digger, as if a hammer used the carpenter to pound nails? Therefore, the master God of the angel armies will send a debilitating disease on his robust Assyrian fighters. Under the canopy of God's bright glory, a fierce fire will break out. Israel's light will burst into a conflagration. The holy will explode in a firestorm, and in one day burn to cinders every last Assyrian. God will destroy the splendid trees and lush gardens. The body and soul will wash away to nothing. Like a disease-ridden invalid, a child could count what's left of the trees on the fingers of his two hands. And on that day also what's left of Israel, the raging survivors of Jacob, will no longer be fascinated by abusive, battering Assyria. They'll lean on God, the holy. Yes, truly, the ragtag remnant, what's left of Jacob, will come back to the strong God. Your people Israel will once like the sand on the seashore, but only a scattered few will return. Destruction is ordered, brimming over with righteousness. For the master God of the angel armies will finish here what he started all over the globe. Therefore, the master God of the angel army says, my dear, dear people who live in Zion, don't be terrorized by the Assyrians when they beat you with clubs and threaten you with rods like the Egyptians once did. It's just a short time. My anger against you will be spent, and I'll turn my destroying anger on them. I, God of the angel armies, will go after them as a cat of nine tails and finish them off decisively as Gideon downed Midians on the rock. Only as Moses turned the tables on Egypt, on that day Assyria will be pulled off your back and the yoke of slavery lifted from your neck. So he's saying that the ones that are slaves right at that point are being punished for something that they did, and then he's going to turn on their oppressors. It seems that humans only learn lessons through pain. Assyria's on the move up from Rizamon to the Aya through Migron will... Okay, I'm not going to say that. Cry for help, daughter of Galilee. Listen to her, Lizra. Do something, Antael. The people of Gibeon flee in panic. The enemy's son at the mount of dear daughter Zion. But now watch this. The master God of the angel army sweeps his axe and lops the branches, chops down the giant trees, lays flat the towering forest on the march. His axe will make toothpicks of that forest, the Lebanon like armor reduced to kindling. A green shoot will sprout from Joe's stump. From his roots, a budding branch. The life-giving Spirit of God will hover over him. The Spirit that brings wisdom and understanding. The Spirit that gives direction and builds strength. The Spirit that instills knowledge and fear of God. Fear of God will be all his joy and delight. He won't judge by appearances, won't decide on the basis of hearsay. He'll judge the needy by what is right, render decisions on earth's poor with justice. His words will bring everyone to awed attention. A mere breath from his lips will topple the wicked. Each morning he'll put on sturdy work clothes and boots and build righteousness and faithfulness in his land. Doesn't that sound better than having a lot of money and living like the Kardashians and getting bored with, oh, what restaurant should we go to today? You know, doesn't it sound better to have that experience? I'll read that last bit again so you can soak it in. A green shoot will sprout from Jesse's stump, from his roots a budding branch. The life-giving Spirit of God will hover over him, the Spirit that brings wisdom and understanding, the Spirit that gives direction and builds strength, the Spirit that instills knowledge and fear of God. Then he goes on to say, fear of God will be his joy and delight. So that's interesting, isn't it? That fear of God will be his joy and delight. So we'll meditate on that for a minute. Fear of God will be all his joy and delight, rather than a fancy restaurant. It sounds better, doesn't it? Or new dress from Sloane Street. Sounds better. Which would you rather have? He won't judge by appearances, won't decide on the basis of hearsay and gossip. He'll judge the needy by what is right, render decisions on earth's poor with justice. His words will bring everyone to awed attention. A mere breath from his lips will topple the wicked. Each morning he'll pull on his sturdy work clothes and boots and build righteousness and faithfulness in the land. The wolf will romp with the lamb, the leopard sleep with the kid, calf and lion will eat from the same trough, and a little child will tend them. Cow and bear will graze the same pasture, their calves and cubs grow up together, and the lion eats straw like the ox. The nursing child will crawl out over rattlesnake dens, the toddler stick his hand down the hole of a serpent. Does a serpent have a hole? Neither animal nor human will hurt or kill on my holy mountain. The whole earth will be brimming with knowing God alive, a living knowledge of God, ocean deep, ocean wide. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? Sounds better than absolutely anything. Any silly fast car that can't go very fast and might crash at any moment. Any mansion that's full of gold that moths can eat the stuff and thieves can break in, like Kim Kardashian in Paris, stalkers. Everything this world has to offer is really pretty shit, really, if you think about it. So doesn't it sound much better to have a living knowledge of God, ocean deep, ocean wide, and to be brimming with knowing God alive? And that's supernatural power, supernatural connection to God, not your own power, it's God's power. But wouldn't it be nice to be nestling under his wing? No worry about debts, no worry about other people and what they think, or whether you're lonely. You're nestled under God's wing. So it's just like pure, utter safety. On that day, root will be raised high, posted as a rallying banner for the people. The nations will all come. His headquarters will be glorious. And on that day, the master, for the second time, will reach out to bring back what's left of his scattered people. He'll bring them back from Egypt, Ethiopia, Sinai, Hamath, and the ocean liners, and he'll raise that rallying banner high, put in all the dispersed refugees of the four winds and the seven seas. Blood brothers united. God will once again dry up Egypt's Red Sea, making for an easy crossing. He'll send a blistering wind down on the great river Euphrates, reduce it to 7 mere trickles. None even get their feet wet. In the end, there'll be a highway all the way from Assyria, easily traveling to march out of Egypt. And you will say in that day, I thank you, God. You were angry, but your anger wasn't forever. You withdrew your anger and moved in and comforted me. Yes, indeed, God is my salvation. I trust. I won't be afraid. God, yes, God is my strength and song, best of all my salvation. Joyfully you pull up buckets of water from the wells of salvation. And as you do, you'll say, give thanks to God, call out his name, ask him anything, shout out to the nations. So, I've got to a certain point. I'm just going to draw a line under it because I'll be reading the rest next week in part 2. And yeah, I'll be reading the rest next week in a part 2. And I am horrified at the beginning of the show that I was playing Paul Washer. Please go and listen to his lecture on YouTube called Slip Away and Be With God. It's just really beautiful and you'll find it really nourishing. I played that at the beginning and somebody told me that it wasn't coming through. So yeah, that's quite annoying and upsetting. And then towards the end of the end of the show, I noticed that after the break, I don't think I unmuted. So that is a little bit disturbing because I was reading and I've read quite a lot, and I really do want you to hear what I've been reading. So I do hope that, I do hope that I did unmute after. I'm pretty sure they did unmute, but then did I, for some reason, mute again? And I really I really hope that I didn't. And I hope that anybody listening got something out of this, got something. I mean, I can't read the Bible. I find it really, really hard to read it. And yet, if I want to teach about, teach others about how to make conscious contact with God, I'm going to have to go through it and find and get to know God, because God is quite a stranger to me. I shared earlier about how I've read bits and bobs about what Jesus said and God is love, and I have then a vision in my mind of just pure love energy. But, God is different to that. I mean, there's the God of Exodus and Kings, and, he does do great miracles. And during some of this book, we saw the different supernatural things that he can do. And it's hidden from us, really. I mean, a lot of people focus on all the power of this group, the power of that group, the power of the archons, the power of the fallen ones. And, but really they're sort of pretty down low on the pecking order when you think of the creator as far bigger power than this. Is because we're tiny and we're stuck down here with those bad guys, who've got us on pretty much a bit of a lockdown, but it has power over us. I mean, it's not really that much of a big deal, is it? It's not that much to be proud of, because we are pretty shut down and in a state of being shut down, because if we weren't shut down like we are, we would be more powerful than these fallen creatures and these dark angels. We would be more powerful than them, but we would never be more powerful than God. So this conscious contact directly with God, to in conversation and in prayer, is what we need to do. We're supposed to align ourselves with Christ, but pray to God. I mean, really, not to Mary or saints or Jesus, but God, and to align ourselves with Jesus, ask Jesus to walk with us, but conscious contact with God. So I hope I've got that across, and thanks for listening. Please join me on Facebook, Christy Ann Hart. That's Christy Ann Hart on Facebook. Thank you for joining me, listening. God bless.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.